So as I said at the top of the service, that a world that works for everyone is the theme for the year. And freedom from discord is what we're talking about the whole month, but especially today. And the global vision that goes with this is powerful. So this is from Ernest Holmes. We believe that the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. Because it really is your birthright. That's where we started out. And so it's getting back there, because I know, at least for myself, I've wandered off occasionally. I don't know about you guys. You don't have to raise your hands or anything. But I wanted to define a couple terms, because people say, oh, this is what this means, this is what that means, and they're talking to each other, and their definitions of the same word don't mean the same thing. I don't know how many times that's happened to you, but it's happened to me. So, according to Ernest Holmes again, real freedom means that a man is created in the image of perfection, because we are all one with God. We are all divine spirit in human form, and let alone and allowed to make the discovery for himself. So it's like, here's the gift, now you go play with it. And we've done well with that, and we have, been a little disappointed in some of the results we've had. I'm speaking for myself. I guess I'll speak for myself again. Occasionally, I goof up. But freedom of will means the ability to do, to say, and to think as I want to, as I wish to do it. And I can express myself personally by doing all that. And I've had the pleasure and the privilege of doing that for several Sundays this month. And so I want to thank you for that, because it is fun for me to do this. And the problem is, of course, is that once in a while we get in our own way, and that discord comes in. And we interfere with the divine gifts that we were given. We forget that we're creative, and that every thought that we have, that we put energy and conviction into, is going to show up in our life. And it's like, oh, it showed up. Well, that's not what I meant. That looks different. Anyway, so we do that. So discord, which shows up at that point, is a disharmony within us. It's a lack of harmony between notes, or it could be a disagreement between people. How many of you live and have all your friends and relatives and never have a disagreement with them? I don't see any hands. Mine certainly isn't up. The other thing about, if you look at discord and you break it apart, dis means different. It just means different. And cord is an ancient word for heart. So you've got different hearts. So I find that if I look at it, it's like, okay, Gary, I'm going to pick on you. Gary and I are having a disagreement, discord. But our hearts are still one. It's just that we're focusing on different pieces. So Ernest Holmes looks at all this stuff as discord is a bottle of dirty water, or a jar of dirty water. And there's a couple ways to deal with that. One is just to dump it out and start over. But most of us are not ready to do that. We're just not there yet. But we can take the water and put little drops of clear, pure water in. And as you do that, that water clears, because eventually it's going to overflow, and all the dirty water will be gone if you put enough drops of clear water in there. So that's what we're doing. We're taking our thoughts, and if we have discord, we're putting the love drops in. We're putting that in there so that the mental knot that is the discord can be untied, can be unwoven. And a lot of it's just communications. So many times, it's just you're ignorant, we weren't listening, I didn't pay attention, I didn't know, all those things. But it's important to center around that love, that knowing. So what I wanted to do today especially is to look at our relationships, because that's where we experience perhaps the most discord. And the important place to start is with yourself. Are you in alignment with yourself? I know there are times where part of me wants to do this and part of me wants to do that. And I'll pick my classic. It's like, gee, that ice cream looks good. Oh, but I promised I wouldn't do that. So I don't need sugar. So it's like, okay, fine. I made a vow to myself. But is there still inner conflict and discord? Yeah. It could be something as simple as that. And that's within me. And, it's like, do I go to church or do I lie in bed and enjoy myself? That's a little disharmony, a little discord, and you get to decide. So it's within us, but you want to look for that alignment within you. And then know that the image of God that is you is the truth. And not be looking at all the stuff you goofed up. How many people have goofed up? You don't need to raise your hands. Because I will just assume everyone's going to raise their hand. But I've got heads now. But so it's like we are that divine being. And when we remember that, remember we're one with Spirit. That is so powerful. And we can forgive ourselves so many things. Because we're doing the absolute best we can. But when you dwell in that discord, and I don't know how many of you heard my talk about don't ask yourself why, if it's just going to be driving you nuts, you diminish your energy and your mojo and your sense of fulfillment, your sense of joy in life. So that's why it's important to work on your inner work. The meditation, like with Genevieve on Monday, every other Monday, right? First and third Mondays. Meditation, prayer. We talked about some of that last week. All these spiritual tools that you can gain here to get that sense of fulfillment, to get that integration back. So there's a story that I heard about, because the thing is that, when we're in alignment, then it's time to go to the sphere of people around us, like concentric circles. You've got people that are important to you in your life. And if they're in good shape and you're in good harmony with them, wow. And then the next circle out, so that your relationships, when you're coming from that wholeness, your relationships get better. And the thing is that, can you imagine if everyone in the world was doing that? People say, oh, the world is falling apart, da, 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 and they need to do something. Well, okay, how is your life? How are your relationships to all the people in your sphere? If you're in great shape with all the people that love you or care about you, that you interact with every day, go out and save the world, because then you're good. But if you've got disharmony within your sphere of influence or your beloveds, that's where your work is. And the work could be in you first, obviously. I don't know where your work is. And it's going to shift. That's the other thing. I'm really good today. Yesterday, well, we don't want to talk about that. Or whatever it is. It's a dynamic. So it's like love yourself or be loving others. And if things aren't going well, do the one you're not doing. So if you're busy loving others, but you're neglecting yourself, you got to work. You got to hold yourself and love yourself. And then you'll have the energy and the time to give to others. But this is a story. It took place in the 18th century, 1772. And I picked this story because it's about harmony. How many of you know who Joseph Haydn is? Classical. He led the orchestra, and Prince Nicholas. They were at a palace in Hungary, and I mean, this is the time. This prince had his own orchestra, like everybody was there, and Haydn was his composer and his conductor and all these kind of things. And they were hanging out there, but the orchestra was upset. There was discord in the symphony, in the harmony of the orchestra, because their families weren't there. So they were separated from their families. So they went to Haydn, and they were expressing their dismay and their discord. And so Haydn wanted to do something, and he thought about it, and then he realized that going to talk to the prince probably wasn't the most effective thing he could do. So he wrote a symphony, the Farewell Symphony. And the last adagio in the symphony, the musicians were playing, and then I think it was one by one or in twos, they would stand up, blow out their candle, and exit the stage. And the music would get quieter and quieter. And finally, there were just two violins left. One was Haydn, and one was his first violin. And then that was the end of the symphony. And they left. The next day, the prince got the message, because they went home to their families. Everybody went back to their families. So the discord doesn't have to be a painful, coming together. I thought that was so graceful and beautiful. The Farewell Symphony. So, how do we attain freedom from discord? One of them is to open up and to be where we are and to admit, hey, look, because I don't know about you, but people come up to me and they ask me, how are you? I say, I'm fine. Is that the truth? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But when it's important, I have to give you a caveat here, it's important to gauge how much information the person really wants. Because they may be just saying it, to be nice and conversational. But sometimes it's like, you can even say, do you really want to know? Because I'm prepared to tell you. Because the thing is that's part of the art of relationships, because you're being real with each other. My toe hurts. Or, I just closed my car door on my thumb. It could be almost anything. Or, like in my life in this last month, big things are happening to loved ones. So big stuff is going on. But the thing is you have that sphere of influence. You have power on yourself. You have control of yourself. And that's really all I hate to tell you. You don't have, I would love to control Gary. I'd love to control my sister. I have a little bit of influence, but I cannot control anybody else. So that's just important to know, to remember, especially if you're trying to have someone do something that you want them to do. And they may not even know about it. Do you guys realize how powerful our expectations are? You can expect somebody to do something, but did you even ask them or tell them? Sometimes it's like, well, they should know that's what I want. They should read my mind. Or I've wanted it every other time before, they should do it again. Wait a second. There was no agreement that would happen. Gary takes out the trash. But we have an agreement that he takes out the trash. That expectation has been clear since we got married. He also does all the car repairs. So if you're in a relationship, especially a close, intimate relationship, what are are you clear on your expectations? Are you clear on your agreements? Because when you have an expectation and it's not met, how do you feel then? You are not happy. Yes, dear. Yes. Disappointment, frustration, upset, whatever. I thought you were going to feed the cats. No, I thought you were going to feed the cats. It could be anything. So it's really important to look at that. And, it's just so many things that just kind of go right by us. And then the other piece of it is after you've agreed to stuff, for goodness sake, keep your agreements. Because if you said you're going to do something, you do it because you said you would. You made that commitment. Because if you don't keep those commitments, the energy, it's like you have like a little sacred energy gas tank. And stuff like that just drains it. If you're not coming through when you said you would. Now, if the agreement wasn't clear, that's something else. And agreements can be renegotiated. So it's not like, I'm never making agreements again because I don't want to screw up. Hello, that doesn't work. Because you want to have a reciprocal relationship. But you want to be able to feel good about yourself. And coming through, that's what that does. And if you can't, for heaven's sakes, communicate. Talk to somebody, tell them. Yeah, so be true. Tell the truth. So I talked about in our hands, out of our hands, and wanting to change others. Many of you know the serenity prayer, or I'm not going to say the whole serenity prayer, but the part that's so key is God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. There are things that we personally cannot change. As a group, that might be different, but we personally can't. And the courage to change the things I can. Because sometimes that's what I need to change, and I can do it, but I don't want to, I'm afraid. I want that courage and the wisdom to know the difference. Because if you don't, your discord quotient in your life will go up. So that's why it's important to look within ourselves. And just one other little aside, I don't know if you guys have secrets, but secrets keep you in bondage. You don't want to be keeping secrets. Nothing is so bad that you can't share it with a loved one. Because if you don't, there's a barrier between you. There's something between you if you don't come. And come from love, of course. Definitely come from love. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with this book called Conscious Loving, The Journey to Co-Commitment by Gay Hendricks and Kathleen Hendricks. I've got some more material which I'm going to share out of this book, but this is a great book for relationships. And there's extra. They talk about problem solving, getting unstuck, all sorts of things. They're a psychotherapist, and I don't know about you, but relationships are the most important thing in my life. The people I love. Yeah. I've had quite a month. So these are 6 co-commitments that they suggest, and they work you through them as well. But I commit myself to being close, and I commit myself to clearing up anything in the way of my ability to do so. So I commit to showing up genuinely, authentically, tears, laughter, and everything in between. Anger, love, all those things. I commit myself to my own complete development as an individual. I will never stop working on myself in a loving way. There's always something I want to shift my consciousness around or be differently. It's just so powerful. I commit myself to revealing myself fully in my relationships, not to concealing myself. I tease Gary when something comes up, and I go, well, you knew that when you married me. You knew I'd like to spend money. You knew I was goofy. I promised him he would never be bored. I didn't, that was as far as I went. But anyway, I commit myself to the full empowerment of the people around me. And one of the corollaries of that is you're not codependent. You're supporting them in their journey and loving them the way they are and letting them unfold and letting them do their own work. I commit myself to acting from the awareness that I am 100% the source of my reality. Oh my God, I got to stop blaming anybody else. 100% of my experience is my responsibility. I thought about it, I did it, all those things. And think about the freedom that gives you, because you can go ahead and change stuff. You have that power there. And finally here, I commit myself to having a good time in my close relationships. I want to have a good time. God's going to have a good time in my life. Right, Gary? Anyway, so thank you so much, sweetie. And it's a really tall order, and I aspire to it. I aspire to it. It's like the vision we talked about last week. This is where I want to dwell. Am I there? Not as much as I want yet, but I'm constantly evolving, always changing, always growing. And guess what? You guys are all part of my experiment. You know, every time we talk to each other, we're in this together. We're talking, we're loving, we're playing, we're doing service, we're doing all these things together. And if we're doing that together and we're doing it with the freedom and the joy of life, discord is gone. And the more communities that are dwelling in that freedom, that love, this world can shift. It does shift. There are 4 questions that a lot of you probably have heard before that I wanted to bring up and remind you of. And they're sometimes known as the Sufi rules. Sometimes it's out of the Buddhist tradition. It's one of those things where lots of the traditions have used these. But the first one, and it's about communication, the first one is what I'm about to say kind? Is it kind? The second is it true? Is it really true? Third, is it necessary? Does it need to be said? And the fourth, does it improve upon the silence? Or is just my presence, my coming into my heart and holding the silence? That can be so much more eloquent than words. Just being there with someone. There's different versions of these. They're all over the internet. But I would encourage you to use some of the things we've talked about in your life to increase your freedom and dispel that discord, because we do truly want to have that freedom. So Ernest Holmes says, we believe the ultimate goal of life is to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. It's already yours. We just need to get out of our own ways. So the affirmation for this month or this week is, I choose freedom, joy, and harmony. Please repeat after me. I choose freedom, joy, and harmony. I choose freedom, joy, and harmony. I choose freedom, joy, and harmony. And so it is. Thank you all.